Is systemic racism a problem in Canada?
There is systemic racism in that it's built into the structure of our society. For the large segment of the population, it is invisible or non-existent, but it is a growing problem as we get a larger non-Northern European population who we need to do important jobs and we need to include in society, but have failed to do so.
I think it is, yes. I think recognizing it is a step forward, and then we can start about addressing it and taking, again, the right measures to do it.
I do believe that it does exist, and I believe we see the manifestation of that in everyday life, whether we like it or not. For me personally, I think the worst discrimination in this country is definitely the Indian Act that basically made the Aboriginal victim of all kind of systemic dysfunction of our society.
I mean, we like to think of Canada as the better version of the States, and we don't have a problem here like we have in the States, but I don't think that fully represents Canada. We have a big issue. We have murdered and missing Indigenous women. That only became like something that we talked about in recent years when it's been a known problem for many years. So I think in terms of Indigenous relations, there's a lot of work to be done. And there's like some work that's being done that's just starting now, but it's long overdue.
Well, there is, but you cannot see it. As somebody came from a different background, I would see it sometimes, not a lot. I grew up in different countries. I grew up in Europe. I grew up in Russia as well when I was young. So over there, it's clearly see it. Over here is much, much, much less. But you can feel it sometimes as a racism or difference of the people over here. But very low, comparing to the other countries in the world, I mean.
Yeah, I think so, for sure. Especially right now, we see a lot of the problems going on in Digby with the lobster fishing, so I think people should be super aware that it's still an ongoing issue.
I'm a school teacher, so I've studied the residential school system and how that has affected the generations that came out of it. But also the ideologies that implemented that system, the same structures, the same family compact that put the structures into place originally that would do that sort of atrocity of a system, that's still in place.
Yeah, I think it's a problem for some people in Canada. Some people recognize it as a big problem. Other people may not recognize it. I think that's the challenge of systemic racism, and the movement around it is for people to help people recognize it a little bit more, and I think that's the state we're at in Canada now.
Definitely. I think it's a problem worldwide. It's everywhere. It's been there, it's still here, it's not going anywhere until we address it head on.
It's really hard to tell. Even though I'm a part of the visible minority, like I've been treated well here and people are respectful. I have lots of friends, different backgrounds. So yeah, I think it will be different for every person.
I think definitely within the Indigenous community, especially, I think obviously like Black people are discriminated against as well, but I think because we have such a large population of Indigenous people, and that has been like an ongoing like issue since the very beginning of Canada, like I think it's definitely an issue still today because nothing's changed really.
Not in my world. We talk about that quite often. People at the pubs or whatever, you could have a multitude of races and whatnot, and we all seem to get along. It's the elites and whatnot that seem to be creating the problem. In fact, we see this quite a bit with with be it sexism, racism, it's pitting man against woman, black against white, through the media.
I think to say that it isn't would be, completely untrue. I think probably there's racism still all over the world, but definitely Canada is not immune to it. And to deny that it exists would be to put the people who suffer from it in a position where they're not being seen and their issues are not being heard.
I don't think it is. A lot of other people do, but I myself don't think it is. I think it's blown out of proportion a lot, and they're using it. using it as a way to try to get their wants across to other people. And I don't know. To me, I think Canada's a lot less racist than a lot of other countries, for sure.
Racism is never going to be something that doesn't exist. How you feel racism is a completely personal experience. Personally, I think that when I deal with people that have seen the world, traveled the world, I don't necessarily feel any form of racism. When I deal with people that are more unhappy in their own skin, I feel a certain tension that has nothing to do with me, but with them and how they see my differences as a trigger for them. So personally, I'm fine because I never had any problem.
Yes, I think it's a problem everywhere. It's just finally being addressed. It's been made more aware as to technology and the ability to film. That's really just brought it to light a bit more. I think it's always been an issue. It's just finally being addressed right now, and it's going to, with how long it's been going on, I think it's going to take time to earn trust back and fix that problem.